I just wanted to share a little bit of, how we build networks in Ashoka before jumping in and hearing Cynthia's story. And before just doing that, I would invite all of you, if you have questions, just open your mic and ask them. If you don't feel that comfortable, you can ask the question in the chat, but here is a very safe space for us to learn about building networks. So we want to hear your voices as well. So I'll briefly present you a little bit of what Ashoka does and why we're here and why we're facilitating a session on building networks. And then we have Cynthia here to talk with us. So just quickly, we know already that we're living in a world, with challenges at every step, and we're feeling that even more today, which, it's the new reality that we're living. And in this context that we are living, and I'm not talking only about the pandemic, but all the other things that are happening with all the effects of climate change, all the things that are happening on the human rights side. So there are a lot of challenges, and for us to really address them, it's important to take the time to build collaborations, so that it's not only us in our silo, in our box, that we work to address that problem. And maybe you know that even better than myself, because it's not only working with your library, but it's also important to connect with others with your work, and others to learn from your work, and maybe to take your idea even and replicate it. So that's why it's important more than ever today to find this space of collaboration and to connect with other people, even if they are from different sectors than the one that we are working in. Okay, let's see, come on, okay. And what we do as Ashoka is, even from the 80s, we realized that what is important for us is to find those people who committed their lives for a cause, like Cynthia here. She's committed for the circular, to reshape how circular economy is working. And we want to find these people who are dedicating their energy, their resources, their networks to solve a problem in the world. And we call these people Ashoka Fellows, and we are there throughout their life to support, accelerate the way that they achieve change. And here you can see some names. The founder of Wikipedia is an Ashoka Fellow. You might have heard of Apopo, which is a solution of using rats to detect minefields in Africa. That person is also an Ashoka Fellow. There are new people coming to the session. Welcome. We're just briefly presenting a little bit about Ashoka, and then we're going to learn more from Cynthia's story. But coming back to the presentation, so that's what we mainly do. We're trying to find these people, and we're trying to build these networks of collaboration so that their solutions can achieve great results. Hey, we have some music. That's not bad. That's so useful. Yeah, we need some energy. Okay, so this is who we are as Ashoka. We now have around 3,100 Ashoka Fellows around the world on any topic that you can imagine. So even for your work, you can use our network, and their profile are widely open on our platform, where you can go and access them and read about them. And if you want to connect with any of them that might be useful to your work or your personal desires of change, just shout out and we can do that. But now coming back to our main purpose, yes, we select these Ashoka Fellows when we want to support them to accelerate change. But as I mentioned at the beginning, now more than ever, it's important to collaborate and build these collaborations who are so important to solve the problems in the world. And for that to happen, we need to support everybody to become a change maker, to feel as a change maker, and to have the tools to be a change maker. And for us, a change maker, it's any person who identifies a problem around him or her or they and tries to find solutions to solve that problem. It can be a problem in their neighborhood, a problem in their family, a problem in their society, any type of problem. But if they have the step of actually wanting to address it and build a solution around it, they become change makers and they contribute to changing what we see that needs changing in the world. So we as Ashoka, we want to support an everyone a change-maker world. So we want to make sure that as many people as possible in this world, they feel and act as change makers. And we do that firstly by supporting and finding these top leading social entrepreneurs like Cynthia here. And why we do that is because they become examples, they become study cases for others to follow. People that we want to learn from how to become change makers, to get inspired. So that's an important factor. We still want to have these fellows, these social entrepreneurs to support us. But apart from that, what we do at Ashoka most of our time is to connect with other organizations or people who come from the corporations, from the schools, from the universities, from libraries, from civil society organizations, from media, whomever, to build projects and pathways so that we can reach more people with this idea of everyone a change maker, of everyone can actually be a change maker. And for example, in Ashoka Romania, when we started our work here in 2017, we started by creating a change makers map and asking people actually who they think they are change makers in Romania. And we did this effort just to show how many change makers are there and how we can get inspired from them and become change makers. And we have different tools and methodology that we use with different people, because we know that in order for a person to become change makers, it's important to work with that person even from its infancy. So we have programs that work with parents so that they grow and educate their children to become change makers. We work with teachers so that they can support their pupils to become change makers. We work with teenagers directly and support them in building their own innovations. And just to give an example, we have a teenager in the United States who realized that children might not say they have a problem, a medical problem, because they hate the situation in hospital. They hate the experience of being in hospital. So what he did, he built a box with materials that the children can use in hospital to draw, to sing, to whatever, but to use those activities to interact with other people so that the experience in hospital is not a negative one. So he did that with his teenager colleagues and he spread it around the world, his idea. So we support also this kind of people. And we think that no matter the age where you are, if you find a problem and you want to build a solution, you can be a change maker. This is what we, how we see change from direct service, which is delivering a service. Then we move up and up until we work to changing behaviors and mindsets in society. So this is very briefly how we work. And now I want to give concrete examples of how we managed to build these partnerships and allies. With the corporate world, for example, is this program, Making More Health. We're working with Boehringer Ingelheim. And what we have developed with them, it's a program that on one hand is supporting Ashoka Fellows and social entrepreneurs around the world on issues regarding health. So we build a program for them. On the other hand, we work with Boehringer Ingelheim employees because we want them to become change makers. We want them to work with social entrepreneurs, and we want them to build their own initiatives within the company, wherever in the world they are. And we build programs with them around the world. And we also work with the company as a whole, and we bring challenges for them to solve their challenges with people outside the company who can be change makers for them. So this is a very concrete way through which we brought on board allies to support us in building a world where everybody is a change maker. On one side, helping us working with social entrepreneurs. On the other side, working with the people inside their company and with the company as a whole. And then we have some example of Ashoka Fellows, and this is going to be, a preparation to introduce Cynthia. So usually, Ashoka Fellows, they work at this level where they produce change in the mindsets and behaviors of the people. And why is this important? Because once you change the behavior and the mentality of a large amount of people, that change becomes irreversible. Even, for example, if you change a law, that might not be enough if the mindset of the people stays the same. So in order to achieve that, of course, you need allies and partners who are on board with what you are doing. And for example, Aleta in United States, and we have many Ashoka fellows like her, especially those who are working on the education field. She's trying to nurture what she says is change-making skills, but basically there are a set of skills that would help each children to become change maker, to solve problems in this world and become an involved citizen. And she brought on board the American Federation of Teachers to take up her practices and use them in their work so that more children become change makers. So this is a way of building up allies with all teachers in the United States, which is a huge country. So what she did was really huge, to bring on board these teachers by showing them how her approach, her practice would help your children become change makers and would help the teachers in their educational process. Then we have another example of Hilmi, and Hilmi is an Ashoka fellow who works a lot the crossroads between technology and health, and he has built a lot of apps to support people in Africa and some other continents on this side of prevention of many diseases, by having access to information, by using tech tools to have access to information and to people. And what he has done recently, he has teamed up with Philips and Save the Children to build a tech solution to prevent pneumonia and testing people from pneumonia. As we know, there are a lot of children around the world who die because of pneumonia, which can be prevented and tested. And how this happened is because Philips had, as a part of their strategy to focus on pneumonia, and we know that Save the Children is an organization that works around the world for issues related to children. So then he partnered with them and used, let's say, these insights of Philips wanting to work on pneumonia, Save the Children having a big network, a global network of organizations working with children, and Hilmi having this social entrepreneur mind of putting together, bringing together volunteers from Philips, the capacity of Save the Children, and his innovation of building an app to prevent pneumonia, to actually making this happening, this project happening, and bring it to around the world. And then we have Jérémy Lachal. You might have heard about him. He has built Bibliothèque Sans Frontières, and he's bringing knowledge and information to the places in the world where it's hard to get there. So basically he builds spaces for people to use as libraries, as places to get together, and where knowledge actually is. And he made this possible to work in 23 languages in 50 countries across the globe. And if you go on his website, Bibliothèque Sans Frontières, you will see that there are so many companies and so many international organizations working with him, just because he has a great insight and he talked with a lot of people about what he's doing. Actually, nowadays, he's also working with the Romanian Changemaker to bring and to see how he can develop libraries in Bangladesh where they both work. So he's very open, and I think that's an input to take with us. He's very open to talk about what he's doing with a lot of people. And I think that's the first step on bringing allies on board. And I will end with this, what our CEO and founder Bill Drayton says, that now it's more important than ever to become change maker, and it's to give ourselves the permission to be a change maker. So I think all of you who are here, you are change makers, because you're here because you want to learn how to build networks, to build allies, and that's something that it's a common behavior threat for change makers. So let's consider ourselves change makers, and let's learn from the people around us how to build networks. That being said, I will stop here because I think I talked too much, and I think it's important to, if you have more questions about Ashoka and what we can do and about the network that we have of Ashoka Fellows, please do reach me. But now I think it's important to learn from, more concretely from someone who has built this kind of strategic partnerships and allies to produce this kind of shift in the mindset and behavior of people. This being said, I would like to introduce Cynthia Ong, one of our fellows who was elected in 2018. And she works really well in bringing together an area of stakeholders to work, even though they are from different sectors, but to work for circular economy, which is really important nowadays. One of the problems that we have and something that we want to deliver and to develop, which is so grateful that we can have someone here to learn from. And I would ask any of you, if you have questions, please open up your mic and address them. Let's make this more of a conversation where we actually learn how to build allies and to build this network of partners for ourselves. And also, if you want to keep your video on while you address the question, please do that. So without any further ado, Cynthia, I welcome you to the conversation. We're here to get to know your story and to ask the questions, to learn for ourselves how to build such, effective networks of allies as you did. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ovidiu. How's my sound coming across? Is it okay?
Yes, we can clearly hear you and see you.
Good. It would be nice to see some faces if your bandwidth allows it, because right now I'm seeing black boxes and I can see a video. Although it's nice to see your face too, Ovidiu. Hello, nice to see you. It's amazing to see that I've never been to in the world. So I come from the island of Borneo, which is, where is it? It's to the northeast Asia, to our east is Philippines, to our west is mainland Asia, and to our south is Indonesia. So that's where we are. We're the third largest island in the world. So one of the exciting things about being part of the Ashoka family is I get to do things like this and talk to librarians, in another part of the planet. So that's pretty cool. Let's see where to start. You talked a little bit about my work building the circular economy. What is that? What is the circular economy? It's about shifting the current linear extractive economy where you have your forests and your rivers and your natural assets, if you like, and you exploit it, utilize it to create wealth. So circular economy does, the sort of the contrary to that. We preserve all that natural wealth, the forests, the rivers, the ecosystems, the cultures, and we create systems that are closing, closes the loop on itself. So it's circular. The aim is not to deplete the resources. So what that means is you have to work with everybody. It means you have to work with the logging industry. It means you work with the palm oil industry. It means you work with the fossil fuel industry, with government, with civil society, with communities, with private sector. So how do you do that when everyone has a different agenda, and a different intention for their, for being. When I was invited to do this by Ovidiu, I was thinking, wow, librarians, I've done a lot of things, but I don't think I've ever talked to librarians before, and certainly not in your part of the world. So I don't have any understanding of your issues. I'm, I'd like to know more, of course. And I hope, this can be a conversation for all of us. But in thinking about librarians, I thought about stories, and I thought about, people who are keepers of the stories, and my mother-in-law is a linguist, and she wrote a few books, and in one of her books she made a discovery, and she said the discovery was that human beings are creatures of narrative. What pulled us through all the ages, including today in this pandemic, will be stories. Why through the depressions and wars and plagues, instead of dying off as a species, we have multiplied many, many times over, and we will continue to multiply. And what she discovered was it was about story, and it was about narrative. And I, again, in thinking about this conversation, I thought, well, you are keepers of stories. And another friend of mine who's a poet, he says, the future belongs to the most compelling story. And in our work in building the circular economy, I realized that a key part of building the network, building the movement, was the story. It offered a different narrative, it offered a different possibility. And I loved your presentation ended Ovidiu with the quote by Bill Drayton. And I'd like to add to that. One of my mentors said to me that everyone and anywhere and any moment can be the epicenter for change. So whether it's a meeting, whether it's your library, whether it's your circle, whether it's this group, we have that possibility of creating the epicenter for change. And I think that's what we did here in Sabah. We're part of the island of Borneo, where there's huge biodiversity, cultural diversity, and at the same time, vast amounts of resources in the natural world. And we were trying to become like the West, and trying to become modern, and trying to become like the North, and have a different way of life, which was wealthier in the terms of the modern world. And so we saw ourselves move towards industrialization, industrial agriculture, fossil fuel energy, logging of all our forests, and we have some of the oldest forests in the world. So there's a lot to lose, and it's also a lot to protect. And I think for us, it became an imperative to change the direction. So we started with a question, and the question was, where will we be in 50 years if we continue on this current development trajectory? So similarly, I would say to you, what would your founding question be? If it is about a story and it is about a narrative, how would you humanize it? And again, going back to libraries, I think one strength that you have is that it's a human space. It's it's a common ground, whether it's youth, whether it's children, it's students, it's researchers, it's writers, thinkers, influencers. The library is a neutral common ground, that reaches out to everyone. And that is a very powerful place, really, from which to organize, from which to you know, to become an epicenter for change. So what would your founding question be? What would your founding story be? From the question, you know, it just grows. And our movement started, I would say, 10 years ago. And the only thing we had was that question: where will we be in 50 years? And when I facilitated, you know, whether it's the logging industry or the palm oil industry or a government group or an NGO group or indigenous leaders, and you ask that question, and you humanize the space by asking such a question, you know, you will get the diversity of responses that is as diverse as human beings are. And then from there, you know, if the role that we played was as facilitator, so we just continued convening. So we convened government, we convened civil society, we convened educators, we convened private sector, indigenous leaders, and just with the creating the space through that question, listening to responses from everyone. And, you know, many post-its, many flip chart, you know, papers, putting it all in Excel spreadsheet, looking at what the themes are, and you will see very clearly it starts to tell a story of what people care about. You know, they care about food.
Here, if I can, I'm curious, you know, when you send this invitation for all those people to join your spaces, what do you think drew them? Because, you know, they had to answer positively to your invitation to be there. And I'm curious, why do you think they came there? It was because they were intrigued by thinking of how the world would look after a number of years, or what do you think clicked for them?
I think we created a space that was compelling. So we looked at other parts of the world who had addressed the economy in a systemic way. So Costa Rica, you know, Bhutan, you know, where they have gross national happiness. You know, there are like few initiatives around the world where they decided to make a systemic intervention on themselves. And so we looked at those examples, we shared those stories, and we asked the question, where would we be in 50 years? And what would it look like if we did something like this? And I think the vision, the framing was compelling, and people came. And also it didn't matter whether it was 10 people or it was 100 people. We found that it started to have a life of its own. So we spent 2 years doing only this, just asking the question and opening spaces and listening, and then, you know, trying to integrate all the information we were getting to you know, for it to tell a story. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much. And I think it's really important, you know, when sharing an invitation with bringing these examples and, hey, do we want to be like that? Do we want to have our own way of doing? I think that's really important. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the other key point, which I mentioned earlier, is about humanizing the process. And what does that mean? When you do open a space for a big vision, and you have, you know, the CEO of big logging companies, of big palm oil companies, or government leaders, asking the question that is, to me, at some level, it's personal, because you then start to think about yourself. Well, where will I be in 50 years? My kid will be how old? I would be a grandfather or grandmother. And, you know, I was surprised, for example, when we convened the logging companies, and one of the owners said, you know, started talking about education and young people. And, you know, that surprised me because, you know, we have a perception of what may be important to them. So the humanizing component, I think, is very important. And again, I say, you know, library or the work that you do, you know, being the keeper of stories is a very human space. It is about humanity, and that in itself is a neutral, almost a neutral ground, a common ground to, you know, for you to leverage and see the power of. And the other thing, of course, is in convening sectors who have different goals. You know, companies do this, governments do this, civil society does this, and, you know, indigenous communities, academia, all have different intentions. Convening a neutral space or a safe space or a common ground where, you know, whether it's through your questions or through the vision, you know, you create a container that can hold the diversity, however wide, however deep, however high. You know, you can expand, you get to expand your conversation, and allowing for those voices. You know, that this is content, right? This is the richness of content. And your main task would be, at least ours was, you know, when you hear thousands of voices, how do you then crystallize it into the narrative? What is the narrative? And we found that we had to find new language. We had to use different words. And sometimes the words didn't exist because we started to see a shape that was very different from the current system. So then we started to find ourselves in linguistics, you know, really scratching our heads and thinking, what is the word for that? Because conservation isn't right, development isn't right, sustainability isn't right. You know, so, you know, it was about a new framing, and that was not something we necessarily came into the process thinking we will design this new framing. It was the diversity of voices and the richness of the voices that made it necessary. And it was very cool to see people, you know, taking up the challenge just to find different expressions, to find, you know, different ways of saying something, or rather finding a new way of saying something that was, you know, emerging.
Claudia is asking if you can give any example of these new words that you developed.
Okay. Well, when we first started talking, it was the green economy. And then after a while, the green economy became too small, too limiting. And we found it was beyond the green economy. And then we coined ourselves this idea of a circular economy. And then we started to see that that conversation was emerging in other parts of the world, including in Europe. And we said, oh, wow, people are talking about this even at the World Economic Forum. You know, and we say, well, you know, from the very micro, you can align to the very macro if you are seeking truth. And so that was one example. You know, even the things that I mentioned already, words like conservation, words like sustainability, you know, became very limiting. And sustainable development, although we still use it, we do find that those terms, those terminologies can be limiting. The other thing was currency. You know, in a linear economy, when you think about currency or GDP, you think about money, you think about, you know, like money. But in the circular economy, we started to look at what are other currencies that are just as valuable or even more valuable. You know, the currency of reciprocity, the currency of generosity, responsibility, all these things. So we started to not to monetize those things, but to understand them as innately valuable, and that a circular economy brought in and acknowledged those values, you know, beyond just the monetary financial value. Trying to think of other examples. It was so long ago. We're still looking for new words and new terminology. Trying to move away from either business as usual, conservation, government as usual, private sector as usual. You know, those, I think those words, the lingo can be divisive even. I hope that answers what your question was. Trying to think of what else. So I think when you gather and convene and listen and try to shape what you're hearing into you know, something tangible, you start to build solutions. I think we're, you know, as humans, maybe it's just you know, in our nature to want to move towards some kind of solution. So Forever Sabah, you know, our initiative, after 2 years of talking, understanding, unpacking, deep diving, the discussion naturally morphed into solutions. And the various allies chose themselves. You know, was it going to be this government department? Was it going to be this company, this NGO, this community? In a way, if using a facilitative approach, which is what we do, it's not that you have, you know, we don't come to the table with our intention, like this is what we want out of this, but just keeping the space open, moving, dynamic. People will often choose themselves and step up in, you know, themselves when they're ready. And so we also have a principle of readiness. Who's ready? And often you can see who's ready, just from how passionate they are, how they keep on coming, how they always attend your meetings, and they're very engaged. You know, you can tell out of 10 people, the 3 or the 4 who are ready. And it won't be everyone, and you wouldn't want it to be everyone, but the ones who are there will engage fully. And I think that's, for us, that's what we needed, to give life to something new. And I would, you know, encourage you in the same way. So who are the people who are, you know, that come to your space? Who cares about the issues? Who you know, who wants to create change? I think, you know, even when you just think about the question, you will probably know the answer. And those are the people you convene. And sometimes it's just important to just convene the space and not be attached to who will come, how many will come. Just be inclusive, you know, make sure anyone you think who will care or will be interested, you know, to gather, and you know, without judgment, welcome them when they come. And then I think then it's down to how you design your facilitation so that voices are heard, and voices are heard in an equal way. Everybody has a chance. How do you level the playing field? We have particular formats. We will always convene firstly in a circle. We will always invite them so they know where they're coming, have some guidelines, you know, all voices to be heard. You know, everyone has to introduce themselves. So, you know, for example, here it's a very patriarchal society, and usually there would be important people and less important people, and people who will be heard and others who won't be heard. So we're very careful about changing that format so all voices can be heard in an equal way. And actually, you know, I think the circle is the most natural or most human format. And I think as soon as you do it, you will see a dynamic change, and you will see that people get comfortable with it, even if that's not their usual format. Yeah, I mean, you maybe do it already. So I'm probably speaking to the converted. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd love to hear your questions, you know, any responses, any reactions you have, rather than, otherwise I'll keep talking and then you may, you know, it may be completely uninteresting to you. So it'd be good to get a sense from you so that I know how to continue. Anyone at all? Are there questions?
It would be interesting if there are people who would like to share from their experiences. They try to do a process like that to bring people and build such a process. If you have such examples and you want to share.
Can you say that again, Ovidiu?
I was saying that it would be also interesting if there are people who try to have such a process of convening people to share how their experiences went.
Yeah, yeah, that would be good to hear. I think I don't know how many here are librarians, or is everyone here a librarian?
So I see Mariana, she's ready to talk.
I just said that I'm a librarian. That's it.
I think librarians are probably natural facilitators.
They are also very shy. And it's such a pity because I know of the wonderful work that many of them here in this room are doing. Mariana does wonderful work, and I know about how they try to involve, to be inclusive, and to have as many actors at the tables with most of the things that they decide to do in the library. And I see also other colleagues from the country that do this. So please don't be shy. Just tell people what you do, because we can all learn from this.
And the first step to actually build the realize that you want is for them to hear your story.
Yeah. Yes. So.
Okay, Sandra.
What about you from a video? Do you have any questions?
I saw Ruxandra wanting to be the first one to break the ice. So go, you have the mic.
Thank you. I wanted to say I'm not a librarian, first of all, but from a librarian, I learned about this meeting today, and I'm definitely enjoying it. I never thought of traveling to your place today, but I really enjoy it. Thank you so much for what you're sharing. I think I'm still digesting the story, because what you said about stories in the library, you also have a life story, let's say. I don't know if you ever plan to write it or not, but to me it sounds like a story, your whole experience. I'm working in a community foundation in Brussels, and we do try to gather people and find out their view on life, let's say. I think it still feels hard, and my question that still bothers me, let's say, is if it's okay to mix people, like when you ask them to join a meeting, is it okay to bring together, I don't know, authorities and NGOs? And to me, it sounds more difficult to do, let's say. I don't know if it's, if I express myself correctly. Did you understand my question?
Yeah. Yes, yeah. Can you hear me? Because I think my internet is a little shaky. It's okay?
Yeah.
I think it can be very exciting to bring very, different people together. One of the things we are doing is in infrastructure development. So building of roads and highways and, bridges, airports, things like this. And we also did a similar thing, which is we just bring to the circle the builders, the contractors, the designers, the planners, the government, the communities who are affected by this big construction. We convene, a group of 150 people, for 2 days, talking about how do we build our big roads. How do we plan it? What is the process for disagreements and things like this? And in a similar way, if the spirit or your intention of convening is clear, that it is about hearing the diverse voices, and it is about being real, being authentic. The space usually can hold, the diverse views. And also, of course, how you facilitate is important to be able to hold all the diverse views. And that's a skill, you learn that over time. But we're getting more and more to a place where we are, in a way, not seen as a threat by the different sectors, but seen as a convener that gets things done. So after a while, you build that credibility, you build that reputation, if you like, that you can have real conversations, you can have disagreements, but people will be heard, and there will be some solution that will be co-developed together. So again, it happens over time, but it is important to even just begin the conversation.
I'm curious if from this perspective might be, unconscious bias that we have, that we are, maybe not good enough to bring all these voices together, or what do we do if they do not, we worry so much about how they would interact without actually giving the space for them to interact. So I'm curious if that's, you know, what's your take on that? If there are some unconscious biases that, you know, that keep us from actually interacting and bringing together all these people that we think they are important to be at the table.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I don't know if there's a good answer to that. I'll share what I think, but I think I always say this thing that energy doesn't lie. So your intention and how you put it out, the clarity with which you put it out doesn't lie. So if you invite a group of people with your own bias, with your own very strong agenda, with your own you know, outcomes that you are attached to, that will come through in one way or another, even if it's not said. So having you be your own presence be pretty clean and without baggage or without judgment, without prejudice, is in itself important. You know, that you really want to hear the diverse voices. That will be conveyed in your design, it will be conveyed in your tone when you open the space. You see what I'm saying?
And now I have another question. Maybe then I would open up, I would have some questions for those who are joining. I'm curious, you know, after those 2 years, when you build the core team with whom to build this new vocabulary, this new approach, how do you manage to bring on board other people who might be relevant to achieve the change that you want? So how do you bring those on board? People who were not part of those 2 years of conversation. So how do you build other people on board?
I think it's just keeping the space open and making it explicit that this is a living organization. It's a living process. So it's never closed. The way we are designed, it's a transition over 25 years. So we are maybe in our 6th year, although because the first 3 to 4 years was just in the design, in the engagement, slowly, you know, building the work and building the organization. And then it was built collaboratively. So it wasn't that I went away with my team and we were the architects of this great thing ourselves. It was built generatively with people. And it continues that way. So we say it's 25 years, it's waves of 5 years each, over 25 years, so 5 waves. And it will take the shape that it needs to take based on what the issues are, based on who comes to the table. So it's a living thing. It doesn't become rigid, like these are the projects, these are the people. It just grows and grows and grows, and more people come into, you know. So we were saying in the early days, this is not an empire. We don't build an empire like the sort of mainstream economy. It's empire building, right? Every company builds an empire, but ours is very decentralized. It's very much about a movement. It's very much about everyone being part of it in their own way, and everyone feeling ownership in a way that is meaningful to them.
I think we have Dunya here with a question. If you would like to open your mic and address it, I think that would be lovely, so that I don't have to read it there. Maybe you can give a little bit of the context. Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Well, maybe I didn't put my question very clearly, but the problem here in my part of the world, I'm from Croatia, is that whenever you want to make a major project, you have to cooperate with the municipalities. And the municipalities are consisting from members of different political parties, and they do not want to cooperate together. It's not the problem that they don't want to cooperate with me. I'm not the problem, but they are refusing to cooperate with each other because they are from different political parties. And it's a rule that if in Croatia, it's a rule that if you are from one political party, no matter the benefits, you are not participating with the other political party, if you know what I mean. You understand me? So did you have any type of experience like that? How would you deal with that?
Yeah, we do indeed. And this is what makes life very interesting for me. I think seeing the system for itself is a very important piece of convening. That you see it and you acknowledge it. And what we do is just name it. We have had gatherings where different parties are present, and maybe in your case you say that's not allowed.
No, it is allowed, but they will not agree because it's just a rule that they can't agree because they are from different parties.
Yeah. Again, you know, like this is all different in different contexts, but in our situation here, what I would do in those kinds of circumstances is I call it just naming it. And it doesn't have to be named in a way that is confrontational, but to even acknowledge it, you know, to say so-and-so is present from where, and so-and-so is present from where. It'd be great to have your diverse views. You know, this is a topic that concerns us all. You know, to say it in to create the space through your welcome or your invitation that is real, is aware of the tensions, and you know, in a way welcoming it. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but
yeah, it does.
Yeah,
it's a little, let's simplifying it. We could shame them, but in the way they don't feel ashamed, let's say. So we can be, what you're saying is we will address it openly and in a way make them ashamed of themselves, but not insult them. That's
well, for example, okay, I give you the example of a meeting we convened on planning the infrastructure over the next 5 years in our state. So I'm talking about big roads and, you know, bridges and stuff like this. In the culture here is that, you know, people want to build big things because that's how they make their profits. And, you know, politicians will make profits, contractors will make profits, et cetera, et cetera. So we invite all of them. We invite the Minister of Infrastructure, the Department of Infrastructure, you know, anybody who's anyone in the realm of infrastructure, we will invite them. And we will also invite them to speak, to be on a panel, for example. So for one particular dialogue, we invited the Ministry of Infrastructure to do the opening. They said yes, which we were surprised by. And then the day before they said, no, we're not coming. So my colleague said, well, what do we do? Now we don't have a person doing the opening. I said, it's fine. I was supposed to speak after that person. So I'll just speak, you know, that slot will be empty and I will speak, you know, in that, not in that person's place, but then that one slot will be empty. So when I came on, I said, you know, I'm feeling a little bit awkward here because I'm the first person you're hearing. We had invited the Ministry of Infrastructure. They agreed to come, and yesterday they disagreed to come. And so that slot is empty. We had hoped to hear about the state's plans for the next 5 years from that person. And, you know, it would help us with give us some clarity and some understanding about the plan of the government. But here we are, we were not able to hear from that. So, you know, let's move on. And then I move on with what I was going to say. So already at the beginning, everyone was aware, they invited the minister, he said yes, and then he said no, because for whatever reason. So I didn't speculate what his reasons were. I didn't shame him. I didn't call him names or whatever. I just put the fact out there that he agreed and then disagreed, and then there's a gap. So, you know, there was a reason we wanted him to speak, because we wanted him to share in a transparent way what plans the state had for the next 5 years. Does that give you an example?
Yeah. Well, it is a bit of shaming. I mean, when I said shaming, I didn't mean calling people names and things like that. But, you know, there is that fine way of doing things where you can do it without insulting anybody, but everybody understands what you're trying to say. So yeah, I thank you very much.
So now we have...
It's interesting because, as you say, you know, 150 people from all the sectors, when you say something like that, suddenly something real becomes present, and you know, just like everyone sits up and be like, oh, whoa, you know, she said that. But you know, you don't say it in a way that's, you know, supposed to be destructive. Yeah. It's just real. Yeah. So then it becomes an opening for a more real conversation.
Thank you very much for your answer.
Thank you, Dunia, for your question. Larissa, I invite you to ask your question.
Okay, hello, I'm Larissa. I'm from Workplace Romania Foundation. I'll tell you a little bit about our organization so we can understand the context and the question, my question. So we support professional performance among young people, and we promote excellence in the professional field. We provide relevant learning experiences for young people, and we also facilitate collaboration between various organizations. So we would like to collaborate with some libraries to organize skills clubs or workshops about a profession of the future or skills of the future, or also exhibition spaces or demo skills, let's say. So my question is, have you organized such events? If so, how was it?
I don't think we have. I'm trying to think. Not in a formal sense. Certainly never done anything with libraries, but I will definitely think about that for the future. I am now thinking, why did I not think about that? It has never emerged. That's very exciting. I think, so you want to organize it with your organization inviting libraries, or can you
maybe in collaboration, you know, to use their space and they come with their experience, and maybe we can create together this kind of events. So
yeah,
if there are any librarians from Romania here, maybe we can collaborate.
So here, Larissa wants to work with you guys. So maybe you can connect to one each other. You can also write private messages to one another in Zoom. You can exchange your contacts. So don't be shy.
Okay. Thank you.
That is definitely a great idea, and libraries would be a great platform for convening.
Is there any last question that we take before we check out and we close the session? If not, I have one question for Cynthia, and I'm curious, what's the most unlikely ally that you brought to the table?
Wow. Well, one of the things that we're doing now is we're working with oil palm, and maybe you've heard of the global controversy around palm oil, but Sabah is a major producer. We supply, for a very small state with a lot of biodiversity, we supply 10% of global supply of palm oil. If asking the question, where will we be in 50 years? If we did nothing today, we will all be living in an oil palm plantation in 50 years. And there would be no more orangutans and no more elephants, and the 60% forest that we still have will be gone. So what that means is that for us, we embraced the reality of working with the biggest palm oil companies in the world. They become your ally. You start to understand their issues, start to understand their what drives them, and that when they say they're interested in the issue of sustainability, what that means. So we today work with oil palm companies of every size, including the largest in the world, who has land land banks here in Borneo. Again, going back to the principle of humanizing the process, after a while, you are just humans, and they are humans, and you will find at some level that you have shared concerns, about food, about water, about grandchildren, so to me, that's why we have to go deeper, rather than just look at the surfaces where we will say, I will never be in the same room as that person. But looking at the deeper issues around life and water and food and, livelihoods, you will see that you share similar concerns.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. It was really interesting to hear this part of, bringing to the table actually those companies you would say you would be against them, but actually you managed to create a connection with the people behind the company. So I think that's, if it's something that I take for myself today, it's actually this building a connection with the person, not with the institution or the stakeholder, the name, but as you say, humanizing the process and building relationship with the person.
Yeah.
We're nearing the end of the session, and I would like to take this minutes left on one hand to thank again Anca and Claudia for inviting us to this session and making this possible. I think it's wonderful to open the space of learning how to build allies and networks.
Don't thank us, because we are thanking you guys. It's always like this, you know. We both me and Claudia, we spend a lot of times among librarians. We know them, we know how good they are, and we speak very librarian among us. And then and sometimes we forget how difficult, you know, how you know we get, you know, stumbled in how libraries are underfunded, not recognized as an equal in so many situations. They are not seen as a potential partner, and this kind of library problems. And then we forget about also other, you know, actors that are struggling, and some of them, after struggling in years and years and years, they succeed in changing the world. So it's our pleasure to find, you know, this every opportunity that we can to put good people together, so that they can learn from each other, but also they can maybe join hands and do projects together. So thank you, Cynthia, for giving us your time. You were supposed to be with us 30 minutes, and then you forgot. And it's such a beautiful thing to have you for such a long time. And thank you, Ovidiu, for being the facilitator. I don't want anybody to leave before telling us how to do better next time, because this is only the first in a series of online events that we are preparing for librarians and civil society organization professionals for the next 6 months. So I am supposed now to share my screen. I hope that technology will not fail me. Just bear with me. And
it works, you're good.
Here. Yes. So this is where you already saw this, and I'm also going to share the link for the sorry, I don't know, I don't see the chat right now. I will just give you in 1 second the feedback form. As I was saying before, the feedback form will help us to do better in the next events that we are having. And while you open it and you know, fill it in, I will also tell you what's the thing with these meetings that we are having, just very briefly about the context of this. And then I will also invite you to the next event that we are having together, so that you know when to put time in your calendar and join us on Zoom or other platforms, because we'll also use other platforms, just to make sure that we learn from you and you learn from the colleagues that join us too. So don't forget about filling in the feedback form. It helps us be better. Larissa, I hope that I saw you typing. I hope you got messages, which is the way to go. It's also the last, you know, we are still together here for 5 minutes. So if you got to hear things about colleagues that you want to work with, you have to make the first move. This is the first step to have a new ally, is to actually put yourself out there and tell them that you want to know more and to get in contact, and then you'll find a way to do this together. So now the sharing of screen, which was
and while you share the screen, I also want to extend the invitation. If any of you want to get in contact with Ashoka, with Ashoka Fellows, with people in our network, feel free to contact me. You find me on social media if you want, if it's easier. If you want to get my email address, for sure, Claudia and Anka have them. And then I also want to thank Cynthia for sharing her story. I think when we have a place here full of stories, I think it's important to get such a story, and it's important that comes from a context which is different from ours, so that we can actually learn and pay attention to the person. And thank you so much for bringing your wisdom here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. We are not stopping here. This is our first webinar. You already know that we had a huge online conference. So we say that it was a successful one. And what we are having is a series of 6 webinars. Some of them will be together with Ovidiu. Some of them will be with other people coming together to discuss different topics that people told, our colleagues from libraries and NGO workers told us that they are interested in. It's the format is usually this one that you already saw. It's 90 minutes of free flow, I would say. I mean, we adapt. We have a plan, but we also adapt to what happens in the room. We want to keep this as friendly and as open as possible. And if Cynthia is right, and I also believe that she is right, I think that you can see that we don't have any hidden agenda. We just want to be here to help. We don't want to push anything towards you. But we believe that we need a hub. And we need to build trust among libraries in the area, but also among NGOs in the area, in the eastern part of Europe and Black Sea region and Caspian Sea region. This is why we started this project, which is funded by the Romanian NGDO Platform Fund. They are giving us a sub-grant from the European Union to support our free online learning and sharing events. It's 12 of them, yes. It's 6 webinars, 1 is gone, but we also have, we have 5 more. They will be once per month, and we will announce you when it happens. Please befriend us on Facebook so that you don't miss it. Then we also have the sharing cafes, which are even more, even more relaxed than this one. It's a discussion among, but focused on a certain country. So if you want to meet the Romanian libraries and the Romanian NGOs, welcome to Romania Sharing Cafe. It's going to be on the 21st of October. Save the date, join us, tell your friends, tell your network. This is also a way to help and to make it even better.
Will it be online or offline?
It's going to be online. Everything we do is, love to share cafes, real cafes. We sometimes do, but also online. So it's strange. We drink coffee together, but in in online. But sometimes it feels almost the same. So 21st of October, it's our next sharing cafe. Then watch out for the next webinars. Don't forget to fill in the feedback form because we want to get better. Don't forget to make friends. This is our hidden agenda, if any. Our hidden agenda is to help you make friends outside your comfort zone. Go out of your usual suspects and go wild and find new types of organizations to work with in other countries or in your own country, but just make new friends while we are here. So if you need any other details, if you want to talk to us, if you want to say hi, or just tell us where we can do better in a different setting than the Google form that I shared. Oh, did I share the form?
It's in the chat. Oh, I think it's only with me, sorry.
Only privately. And nobody told me. I only sent it to Ovidiu. It was a secret form. Yes, that was it. And I was talking about the form and was so convincing, that you should fill it. But yeah, so sorry, this happens, technology sometimes betrays me, and it's also the palm behind me that also whispers in my ear. So that's the way, that's why it happened. Thank you again, Cynthia, for giving us your time and your experience. Thank you for showing us that you can do it. I mean, you can change not life but future. You know, you can change the future of a country just by being persistent and having, you know, following your truth and being flexible too. If I was in your shoes, guys, I wouldn't take you know, Ovidiu's invitation easily. They are a wonderful organization that can help almost any type of enterprise. So they have such a huge network of fellows, and they cover all this huge you know, range of topics that it's impossible for you not to find a way in which Ashoka and Ovidiu can help you with something. So now it's your it's time to ask for help, to go back you know, to him and ask for concrete help in whatever you need. And there's a secret: he doesn't know how to say no, so take advantage of that. Yes, I will for sure. So you have your you have our form. Please take the 5 minutes to tell us how we can do better. Exchange contacts. I hope you already did that. See you on the 21st of October. Follow us on Facebook just to learn more about other themes that we are going to go together. Of course, we are also open to suggestions. Have a nice day. See you.
And a nice evening for you, Cynthia.
Yes, and a nice evening, and good morning, and good night. Yes, this is nice.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Cred că poți să oprești recording-ul.